Harrison Ford, the iconic star of Indiana Jones and Star Wars, made a rare daytime talk show appearance on The View, expecting a lighthearted discussion centered around his final portrayal of the legendary adventurer. Yet the moment he sat down, the energy began to shift. Joy Behar, known for her sharp tongue and confrontational interview style, kicked things off with a jab about Ford's political commentary in past interviews. "You've played a lot of heroes, but in real life, you've been criticized for being a grumpy liberal grandpa," she said, half laughing. Ford raised an eyebrow, but smiled diplomatically. He responded calmly, saying, "I speak my mind. Being grumpy just comes with age." But Behar wasn't ready to let up. She followed up by implying that Ford, despite his progressive stances, still represented old Hollywood privilege. That set the tone for what would become one of the most awkward and explosive exchanges daytime TV had seen in years. Trying to keep the conversation flowing, moderator Whoopi Goldberg redirected the topic to Ford's career legacy. But Behar jumped back in, referencing past criticisms Ford had made about the U.S. government and his climate activism. "Don't you think it's a little hypocritical to lecture Americans on emissions when you've owned planes for years?" she asked pointedly. The comment visibly struck a nerve. Ford paused, took a long breath, and replied, "You know, Joy, I came here to talk about art. It's not to be cornered by cheap shots." The audience let out a collective ooh, sensing the tension. Joy smirked and said, "Well, if you're going to dish it out in the press, don't be surprised if someone calls it out on air." Ford leaned forward, visibly irritated. "There's a difference between accountability and ambush," he said. His voice was low, deliberate, filled with unmistakable warning. Ford attempted to steer the conversation back to his film, highlighting the physical toll of his final action-packed role and the emotional journey of saying goodbye to a character he's portrayed for decades. But Behar interjected again, questioning whether older actors like Ford should step aside to make room for younger talent. "Isn't it time to hang up the fedora for good?" she quipped. Harrison looked straight at her and said, "That's not your call to make, Joy. The audience decides who they want to watch, not talk show hosts." The clapback drew cheers from the audience, but Behar remained unshaken. "Some critics say the new film feels like a retirement tour," she continued. Ford's jaw tightened, and he responded coldly, "You know, if I wanted that kind of critique, I'd talk to someone with credentials, not someone looking for viral moments." At that line stunned the table. The other co-hosts looked frozen. Realizing the conversation had gone completely off the rails, suddenly, Ford stood up from his chair, unclipped his mic, and addressed the audience directly. "I came here because I respect this platform. Respect has to go both ways. I'm done here." The studio gasped. Joy Behar tried to laugh it off, saying, "Oh, come on, it's just a little heat." Ford turned, looked directly at her, and said, "Heat is one thing, disrespect is another." And with that, he walked off the set, leaving stunned hosts and a buzzing audience behind. Producers scrambled to cut to a commercial break while the live audience burst into whispers and gasps. Behind the scenes, staff reportedly rushed to calm Ford down and convince him to return, but the actor had already left the building. Within moments, social media lit up with raw footage from audience members, capturing the moment Ford exited. Clips were reposted with captions like Harrison, "Ford's had enough," and "Joy Behar versus Han Solo goes nuclear." In the hours following the broadcast, the clip racked up millions of views across platforms like X, formerly Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. Hashtags like Harrison, Storms Out, Ford v SBA, and Respect Harrison trended globally. Fans rallied behind the actor, praising his poise and slamming what they described as baiting disguised as journalism. Many users accused Behar of intentionally provoking the guest for attention. Meanwhile, Behar's defenders claimed that she was simply doing her job and asking questions viewers wanted answered. News outlets across the political spectrum jumped in, framing the story according to their own narratives. Fox News labeled Ford a Hollywood elitist, melting under pressure, while MSNBC highlighted his stand as a call for civil discourse in modern media. The incident became more than just a celebrity outburst. It was quickly transforming into a symbol of the widening gap between old-school values and shock-driven television. Within a day, Mr. Ford agreed to appear on The View to discuss his film and his career. He did not anticipate being targeted with adversarial commentary unrelated to his work. He stands by his decision to leave the segment. The statement struck a chord with many in Hollywood. Actors like Mark Ruffalo, Viola Davis, and even Tom Hanks expressed support. Ruffalo tweeted, "Respect is earned. Harrison's been earning it since before some of us were born." Meanwhile, ABC remained silent, issuing no formal apology or clarification. However, leaks from inside the network indicated there was internal tension over the segment. A staffer reportedly told a journalist that pissing off a legend like Harrison Ford might not have been the smartest move. Producers worried that the incident could deter other high-profile guests from agreeing to appear on the show. Joy Behar, ever defiant, addressed the backlash on the following day's episode. She insisted she meant no disrespect, claiming she was merely trying to ask the tough questions that fans at home would want to know. Whoopi Goldberg, seated beside her, visibly shifted in her seat and said, "There's asking questions, then there's pressing buttons." "Yesterday, I think some buttons were smashed," Sunny Hostin added carefully. "Sometimes even journalists need to read the room." Joy chuckled it off, saying, "Well, I didn't expect him to pull a disappearing act," but the laughter in the studio was noticeably subdued. Public reaction to her comments was swift and harsh. Many viewers posted online calling her tone dismissive and arrogant. Petitions circulated demanding that Behar issue a proper apology or even be temporarily suspended. The fallout showed no signs of slowing down. By week's end, The View's ratings had surged, but for all the wrong reasons, media critics called the incident a textbook example of viral toxicity and warned that this form of combative interviewing could ultimately damage the integrity of the platform. Meanwhile, Ford gave his first post-incident interview to a respected film magazine. He didn't mention Behar by name, but spoke at length about respect in media spaces. "There's a difference between asking a question and launching an attack. One informs, the other is theater," he said. His words were widely shared and interpreted as a masterclass in professionalism. Younger actors began referencing Ford's walkout as a lesson in boundary setting. Film bloggers praised his ability to maintain composure despite the public nature of the provocation. For many, Harrison Ford hadn't just walked out, he had walked tall. Industry insiders soon confirmed what viewers had suspected. Ford's team had provided pre-interview topics and expected boundaries, all of which were ignored during the live broadcast. A behind-the-scenes staff member revealed that Behar had added last-minute questions on her own, bypassing producer vetting. This revelation only deepened the backlash. Journalistic integrity watchdogs weighed in, stating that surprise ambush tactics not only breach professional ethics, but also endanger the trust between guests and hosts. The moment wasn't just about Ford's reaction, it sparked a broader industry conversation. Networks across the board began revisiting their guest protocols, emphasizing transparency and respect. Producers from rival shows even reached out to Ford's team privately, expressing solidarity and offering to host him under better terms. Ford declined the invitations. Choosing to stay silent and dignified, the Harrison Ford-Joy Behar clash wasn't just a talk show disaster, was a defining media moment. It exposed the fault lines between celebrity dignity and sensationalist programming. Between honest conversation and combative entertainment, Ford's decision to walk away, rather than explode, resonated deeply with viewers. He didn't insult or shout. He stood up, spoke plainly, and exited with grace. That simple act, magnified across screens and reposted millions of times, became a quiet form of resistance against media hostility. As the dust settled, Joy Behar continued on the show, but her reputation took a noticeable hit. Meanwhile, Ford returned to the big screen, his legend further cemented not by action or adventure, but by a rare public moment of grounded integrity. In a world addicted to drama, Harrison Ford had proven that sometimes the most powerful move is simply standing up and walking out.